I guess we'll get started. I have to read through my electronic meeting purpose anyway, so I'll pound my gavel and say that I'm calling the study session to order for WEM. Due to the current federal and state emergency declarations, the Minnesota directive to residents to stay at home, and guidance about limiting person-to-person contact due to COVID-19 pandemic, the meeting of the WEM School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D-021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. Due to the health pandemic, the school board determined it's not feasible for at least one board member, the superintendent, or school legal counsel to be physically present at the regular meeting location, or feasible to have the public there is the primary reason to do this electronically due to the health pandemic. Persons may monitor the meeting remotely on the Zoom call. School board members are reminded to mute their microphones when they're not speaking. If school members want to speak, just raise your hand. Right now, we just have 2 board members present. Oh, we have 3. Yay, Gary. 3 members present. If you want to speak, just raise your hand. So this is a study session. There's no voting items to be done tonight. There's no action items. Each school board member, if we were to have any roll call, it would be any voting to be done, it would be a roll call. We will not have any public comment because this is a study session. Those are being read on Monday if they are submitted for a regular board meeting. This meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on the district website as soon as possible. Okay. With that in mind, we have to approve the agenda. Excuse me, I think just a second here. Yeah. So we don't have attendance on the study session, but to be noted that Gary Michael and John Belishek and myself are present along with administrators, Mr. Wakehurst, Dr. Wilson, Mrs. Bastine, as well as our athletic director, Jeff Moran. All right, so is there a motion to approve the agenda? Can no one hear me?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. So John Belishek made the motion to approve and Pam Baker seconded to approve the agenda as presented. And to note, we don't have a clerk present, and therefore I had asked Mr. Belishek if he'd be willing to do the minutes for tonight's meeting. Obviously, with a few items on the agenda, it should be a very lengthy minute. So I appreciate that. Thank you, John. All right, first item to be discussed on the board agenda is the end of the year activities, graduation, and beyond. So take it away.
Okay, I think that's me. So I think first of all, it's very important to thank people who put on the Night of Excellence last night. I don't know if everyone was able to view it or not, but you know, thanks to Jennifer and JB and Jay and Danielle for putting that together. I watched it, and you get done, and it just really makes you proud to be a Buccaneer to see all the work that we go in for all these kids. So they're so well-rounded when they come out of here. It's a wonderful night. So, and with that, at every meeting, I'd still be remiss if I didn't mention how hard our staff has been working to make sure this is as successful as can be to finish out the year. The food service people, the support staff, the teaching staff, the administrators. It's countless hours, countless nights, countless weekends putting it all together, but the dedication everybody has shown for our students really needs to be commended. Going a little further from that, today we did have our mini graduation parade. Students have been returning materials as we go forward. Tomorrow is the last day with student contact to finish things up. I just finished a conference phone call with all superintendents of the state with the Department of Ed at about 5:15 today. We do now have some guidance that they just released regarding summer school and what that could potentially look like. And we'll be talking internally on how we can plan to follow the guidance and provide good quality education to our students. And I know one of the other pieces that's been out there that people have been wondering about would be the daycare. We can provide daycare and we can charge based on the information that I just received a little over an hour ago. So we'll be putting that together going forward. I think with that, probably the other piece that's people are really interested in is graduation plans. I think with that, Jennifer's done a nice job putting some information together, some plans. We've worked hard with guidance that's been given to us, and we've also worked hard with our local Department of Health to ensure that we're providing safety for all those who are involved. So with that, I'll let Jennifer kind of give you a brief overview of what the thoughts currently are.
Hi, good evening. So a couple hours ago, I shared a document with board members of plans that were put out. These plans have definitely evolved over the last couple of weeks since we met. And even most recently, as early in the week, when I shared with LeSueur County Public Health, they had a couple of tweaks to make sure that we were in compliance. And so now that we have made those tweaks to the plans and had the green light from Cindy Shaughnessy and Vanessa Holitsky at LeSueur Public Health, feel good that we can move forward. And I'm super excited to be able to share a plan with you that isn't necessarily what we wanted and had originally planned for, but is definitely something that I think we can honor our students with and put a closure to this school year. So as you can see from the plans, it'll start with a parade. And we will go through each of the three communities of Waterville, Elysian, and Morristown. There was a conversation mentioned earlier today by JB about potentially going through Kilkenny, and we'll be looking at that as well, how strategically we can build Kilkenny into it. And we know that we have a time crunch because we're going to be working with 92 FM at 92.1 and to do some broadcasting. And we, along with what they have set up in conversation with Matt over there, we've talked about doing pre-recorded speeches. So our valedictorian, salutatorian, the welcome that Pam and I, that we've talked about, and Abby Blitzer is also planning on speaking on behalf of the class of 2020. So while en route throughout the parade, speeches that are pre-recorded will be aired. And then once we get back to the high school, the plan is to have a stage below Waterville, Elysian, Morristown that is outside the front entrances of the high school. So we'll have a stage set up out there, and one by one, students will get out of their car, walk across the stage, and when they're finished, they'll return to their car, and at that point, the car will need to drive off. LeSueur County Public Health is asking that one graduate per car. So we'll just provide guidance with that in the letter that's sent out with your blessing, of course. And during the time that graduates get out of the car and walk across the stage, the radio station will be present and will recite the graduate's name as they enter the stage area. We also plan to have commentation that fills time as well, so there's not any awkward pauses. We can talk about students in the year and just the school in general. We have lots to talk about, lots of good things that happen this school year. So we shouldn't have any time, or we shouldn't have any problem being able to make the program overall really great. We also will live Zoom this so people can tune into the radio, but then they can also watch it live, even if they're not able to be directly on the premise, because we have to promote through LeSueur County Public Health, we have to promote social distancing and not to congregate in areas. So we'll do that and do our due diligence and work with Jay at the paper, Jay and Lisa, make sure we get that word out. So that's really, in a nutshell, the synopsis of what I shared out earlier today. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
I know, I was just going to ask, how do you plan to control like spectators from showing up?
Yes. So I think the goal from LaSoure County Public Health is that if we can control the traffic area and any roped off area, and I think that's the big thing, and just trying to get the word out that we want to do this for the kids so that they can have a capstone on their year. All the while, we have to be respectful of what the plans are. We do plan to have law enforcement and our emergency responders be able to help control some of that too. But that's an excellent point, and something that I've constantly had evolving in my head the last few days since we talked to LaSoure County Public Health, because it's a big space when you consider that backfield, the practice field that aligns up with the softball field. That's a big open space for people to come into, and so we would have to definitely work with the police department and try to see if we can barricade somehow.
Okay.
And that's really why we have the parade, is to be able to celebrate those kids and allow the community to come out and celebrate with them.
Sure. So are you going to so you're going to specify and publish like where the parade will go through Elysian?
Right. We'll have a staging area. Right now, I was thinking about around Morristown, as I had mentioned, but again, in talking to JB tonight, he mentioned maybe the community center in Morristown, if that's where we start from. That with the area there, that might be a little bit better. So we'll sew up the fine details of where that staging is, but we'll go alphabetical as well, because I think that just makes most sense when we're reading diplomas and that sort of thing. We'll know the order that they're in, so that we can be prepared on that backside and the final walkthrough. So we will graduates will know what number they are in the parade line. So similar to a typical parade, when they get a number identifying where to park and where to be.
Are you still doing the fatheads? Because that might be a way to identify the
Right. At this point, we're not.
Okay.
But yeah, good point.
My next question is about, because I've been listening to a lot of webinars about the graduation from the School Board Association and so forth, and the Department of Ed, and their two concerns were liability and equity. So I'm going to ask two questions. First one is about equity. If each one graduate per car, are we certain that every graduate has the ability to be driven through? They have access to a ride through the parade. I just don't want anybody to be left out. And do you feel anybody's going to opt out?
I'm not sure if anyone will opt out. I think we will ask for a reservation as well. And part of that is because we know some students come from a split home. And so they have parents that are remarried. And so some of them their immediate family will need to have potentially 2 cars. And so in that case, we don't want to eliminate them either. So we want to make sure that we know how many cars per family, if in the event that they would need that. And then at that point, I think we would include, or we should, you make a good point, we should include that if you need transportation, that we would be able to provide that. We have school vans and different options that we can provide.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because the school district or the Department of Ed has made that one of their big points. And Terry Morrow also talked about liability. So is this something, Joel, you may have the answer for this, and I'm sorry to ask questions, but understanding what the school liability would be for this type of event. I think the plan is awesome. It's making the best of a very difficult situation, but what about liability?
I think we're following pretty closely the guidance that I said in the same webinar today. So regarding page 2 of the guidance, and we're following every piece of it. The only piece that is a little variable is them getting out of the vehicle and walking across the stage. And if you remember, there was a portion in there where they said to work closely with your Department of Public Health. So we do have the approval from Cindy, but I will double check with Kevin to make sure we're all good so nothing can come back on us. But and like I said, this has all been evolving so quickly. I just heard this afternoon, like you, the pieces about the liability. I hadn't considered much of that, honestly, previously to what I heard today.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. I know there's a lot of moving parts with all of this, certainly. Are we going to prohibit? I read through the plan, but I don't recall. Does it say anything about prohibiting the graduate from being a driver?
Pam, could you repeat that, please? You're breaking up a little bit.
Sorry about that. Are we going to allow the graduate to actually be driving their vehicle? Like, if they're, are we allowing, or is there any reason why we would maybe want to prohibit a graduate from being the one driving the vehicle, stopping, jumping out, running across, going across stage? Sometimes.
Yeah, you see the blank looks. I think that's something we strongly should consider after watching a little bit today with the students and driving the vehicles, and they get a little rambunctious when they get in the line, perhaps. You know, if the parents, and we could have the advice from Department of Health where a parent could drive them or something and they could get out. You know, obviously we don't want students riding with other students, but if they could maybe be with their parent, I think would be okay. And that's just based on some things that when you read through that page 2 about having the parking lot graduation, if you will, so I think that maybe could fall into play and we could make that work.
I just know sometimes they're going to be excited. I mean, they're not going to have seen some of these people. Well, in ideal terms, they haven't seen these people for a long time. So just throwing it out there as an option.
I think the goal, excuse me, Pam, I think the goal probably would be if we could have some type of law enforcement leading it or something, just to keep the speed down, because, you know, on the way to Kilkenny, there's some open spaces, and to stay 55 may not truthfully occur.
Gary and John, did you have any other questions?
How many graduates do we have?
Mute.
As of today, 52 final grades. I haven't printed off the final list yet. We had a couple of teachers that had some late submissions, but I'm anticipating 52.
Thank you.
John, did you have any questions?
I was just gonna say, you know, and for staging, you know, normally they park cars on the football field for dam days. Why not just stage them initially if you're gonna start in Morristown? Stage them on the ball, or stage them on the football field.
And John, that's exactly why we're sharing the plan tonight, getting some more ideas, some more input on this to make sure we've got something that works well for everyone.
I'll just say thank you for sharing, and it sounds like a good plan.
So my next question, and this is my last, I promise, about graduation, but the date I don't believe was listed on the document you sent out, but that is still planned for May 22nd. And what about weather? Is that then fall into the contingency plan, or is this we're going for it no matter what?
The one thing that LeSueur County Public Health mentioned, the one thing that I had to tweak in this was that we initially had students coming into the gym, not touching anything. The doors would be open, and then walking across the stage and exiting out a different door on the side. And they said they did not support anyone coming inside the building, even if we limited it to maybe 10 people or even less, probably 5 people plus their family in the whole gym. So the weather is definitely something to consider, and I think that we should decide if we are going to do it rain or shine and come up with a tent of some kind so they can walk across, or if we would bump it a day.
What do you think the graduates want to do? Have you talked with the graduates at all about their?
Yeah, I did put out a survey earlier this week on a couple of different things of what's important to them. And then once we had some new guidance, I reviewed some of the responses and that sort of thing. But I didn't ask them about a rain or shine. I think that's something that maybe we should just decide. You know, do we put up a tent or do we bump it a day? Personally, I think maybe we should put up a tent and make it work. In this situation, at least we can still do a parade, although you might not get as many people out in yards, but definitely willing to hear input. Bobby says it says 82 and partly sunny.
And that's legit, and it's solid. Thank you. I'm going with that. Oh, I want to read it. Go ahead.
You know, if you have lighting and stuff, maybe if you see that coming, have a alternate plan, but otherwise, you know, light rain, so what?
Yeah, we won't go into worst case scenarios there. Good point about the lightning, though. That would be an issue, obviously. But I just want to reiterate the things Gary mentioned. I mean, this has not been easy to plan something. You had a very detailed plan put together, Dr. Wilson, Mr. Whitehurst, and it's not an easy thing to do, to be shifting when these guidelines from all these organizations are shifting by the hour. So I just applaud you for putting together a plan. I mean, it is definitely going to be memorable, and I think it's great. And I hope that we can get the word out there to allow other people, the community members, to get out there and support these people through this parade. I think that's just awesome. We're making lemonade out of lemons. I think Mr. Whitehurst used that phrase earlier in the week. Are there any other graduation questions? Because I do have a couple questions about a couple things Mr. Whitehurst mentioned earlier. Just to clarify, about food service through the summer, or have we looked at doing food service through the summer? I know we have summer schools slated for much of July at this point. Are there more families in need? Have we thought about surveying to find out?
Yeah, we have been talking to the families that have been picking up the meals. We've actually put out free and reduced lunch applications, reminding them if they're in need to apply to turn those back. But we have not had a high demand from the parents when we talk to them as far as whether we're going to provide meals during the summer. We're in that unique category. We're not greater than 50% for free and reduced lunch count. So we're a different tier where we are 32 and the second tier is 30 to 50, so it's optional. Due to the construction and everything else, and we do have other ways to provide meals through the food shelf, and then the Legion does have some things out there. Right now, it doesn't look like we're going to be providing the meals for during the summer months.
Oh, I did have one more note about graduation. And I just wanted to applaud you for inviting Ms. Booster to do the speaking. I think that's really a nice touch to showcase a teacher that, I mean, it's hard to pick one from all of our great teachers, but I think it's just a really nice touch. I don't recall the last time that we've done something like that. I just think it's a really nice touch for students. So thank you. Are there any other questions, Gary or John? I don't think we have to, I mean, we don't have an action, we can't make action on the graduation. I think if there were any concerns, I think the other board members would have made sure they participated. I think, again, I applaud the plan. It's just a great opportunity. And I will take a moment right now to applaud Mr. Baran and everyone, Ms. Wold and Dr. Wilson on the event last night. I did listen to it, watched it, and it was a very nicely put together as a way to recognize the seniors and award recipients. It was really nice to see that parents were really making the best of it as well, you know, taking pictures by their fireplace when their child was awarded something, and getting kudos on social media, taking pictures of the screen that they listened to. So that was nice. You made the best again of a difficult situation. So hopefully we can be in the gym next year, celebrating in the traditional way. So thank you. All right. So then, any other comments about that topic on the agenda?
Well, not necessarily related to graduation, just a couple more informational items just to put that out. The building project is cruising right along. They've done an excellent job of clearing spaces, getting ready. Obviously, we're ahead of schedule right now. I hope that bodes well for us in the fall when hopefully we have everybody returned. So that's going well. The second item would be we still at some point need to decide what we want to do with our spring coaches regarding pay. I've been thinking more about this. I know we have some legal ways that we could get out of it or some obligations. My personal opinion is I think if they're willing to put the time in, and I know Mr. Brand's worked on putting some plans together, if they're willing to put the time in working with kids, especially now since I've got some guidance this afternoon about what they can and can't do, there might be some more opportunities out there that didn't present themselves a week ago. So I'm just speaking my opinion. It's difficult to find coaches, and I think we've got a good group of coaches, and I think if we have an opportunity to take care of them, they could provide something for students. I think we should take advantage of that, and that's just my opinion.
This is Gary. I agree with you on the coaches. And one question, I'm aware of maybe one coach, and there's probably others that I'm not aware of, but that is not a staff member. On those instances, and I'm thinking of assistant coach in particular, if that person did nothing, are we still planning to pay them or what? Have you thought about that?
I sure have. My advice probably would be if maybe a portion at the most, and I don't know, we haven't surveyed the coaches unless Mr. Brand is. This is not being pushed by the coaches at all. I have not had requests from the coaches asking if they're being paid. That's just something that I think at maybe at a higher level, we need to have the discussion and how we want to treat people going forward. So how many people would want to take advantage of it? I don't know, but I just think it's an opportunity to allow them, if they would like to, do something for our kids.
Sounds good.
So this would be an action item at our Monday meeting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, some form of determine, I haven't worked the verbiage yet because I wanted to talk about it tonight. Something to the effect and decision making about coaches' pay for spring of 2020 due to COVID-19 or something to that effect.
Again, I think I made my position very clear last meeting. I do support paying the coaches. I would possibly look at either the additional responsibilities and or allowing the coach to opt out, because there's some junior high coaches that may have been as active and engaged and whatnot in process for spring. The head coaches are working on their things year round. I feel it's appropriate to pay them. I think if we could outline their plan of what they might be doing, it sounds like Joel has some idea. I'm sure Mr. Brand does. Maybe it might be helpful to look at a total dollar amount on Monday to say, okay, what are we talking about in terms of a total payroll for coaches? So hopefully, I mean, it's to give some a reality check perhaps for everybody to see this is the amount we're talking about in the whole scheme of things. It's worthwhile to go ahead and pay them. John, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this point about the coaches?
No, I'm good on the coaches.
Okay.
I haven't quite made my mind up yet.
Okay. Mr. Brand, did you have anything to add about the situation that we can take under consideration?
I think the big thing is that, as many of you have mentioned, especially the head coaches, and I also want you to be aware of head coaches are different, are actually legally treated differently than assistant coaches and junior high coaches as far as the contract is concerned. And so I think that's something that I think you need to be aware of, first of all, as has been mentioned. Again, I think many of the coaches would take advantage of doing things with kids. Obviously, up to this point, I haven't demanded things. They've done an awful lot of things as far as connecting with students. And just to let you know, one of the goals of the Minnesota State High School League and the Why We Play philosophy is connecting students to caring adults, and anything we can do to have coaches or other caring adults exposed to kids and doing with kids and guiding kids, I think is very important. And I think it also goes a long way to saying what value we have for coaches and what job they do.
I know at the last meeting, I gave a lot of kudos to Coach Lamont for what she's done for softball players and volleyball players, but I do want to also give kudos to Mr. Kaus and Mr. Baran. Somebody is making sure that traveling trophy is going around for basketball, and that's another example of connecting people and students, and I think that's great. So I appreciate that. I appreciate Mr. Kaus doing that. Whoever's responsible for getting that around, that's really awesome. Any other items under discussion for this section? Any discussion about fall?
Really?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't know about Monday till an hour ago. I don't know. We'll wait and see the guidance. It's there's so, just like you said, it changes so often. There's so many things that you can't control that you'd like to control. So we'll just kind of follow the guidance that's put out there. My inclination is, and I won't go public on my inclination, but I do have a suspicion how it's going. Just to give you an idea, during summer school, they're going to allow you to do like a blended learning where you can have students in one day and then they do distance learning another. Just saying the potential exists. That could be a setup for schools to start practicing and work the kinks out come fall, but I hope that's not the case. I hope we can bring students back in within the confines of the building.
Okay. All right. We'll move along then. Okay, so we have the discussion about teacher contracts. I have to pull up another sheet here. I have two screens open, and okay. So my committee members are Jeff Stangler and Travis Bowman. They're not present tonight. I'm not able to attend. Joel, is this where you get to talk about it, or do I talk about it?
I think it was nice we shared the document regarding the language changes as far as what's out there and what's going on. I do have it sent to Kevin Rupp to take a peek at it to make sure legal-wise it's all in the up and up. I just spoke with him this morning, as a matter of fact, regarding it. Overall, regarding both contracts, it's an overall 6.75% increase. That's total package for the teachers over 2 years. I think the big piece that did come out of it was the teachers voted to change who they obtain their medical insurance from. They're moving from Blue Cross Blue Shield to PEEP, which is a public employer insurance program, I believe is the acronym for it. What that does, it provides a whole host of options for them regarding where they would like to use their dollars as far as how much they'd like to out-of-pocket spend for medical insurance based on their individual needs. In the past, we haven't had quite as many of those options. As far as insurance plan, it's something they feel comfortable with, so they're going that direction. As far as the district's concerned, from our perspective, what it does allow is that some of our younger teachers that come in maybe won't have to spend as much for insurance, or to have some other dollars to work with. So I think it's a win-win, and when it comes to those regards. And it's something that we've talked about over the years when we were with the service co-op is every year when insurance the renewal notice came out and there was a certain percentage based on the contract language, there really wasn't many dollars remaining for the teachers to put into salary. So this does provide an option with some language that they provided so they could potentially generate some more income as opposed to having it all go toward insurance premiums. And as far as the cooks and custodians, to 7% is what they're looking at. 3.5 the first year, 3.5 the second year. There's some change in the custodial language in regards to longevity that we didn't have in there, that we have some people moving into that falls in line with the other contracts that we have. Otherwise, those are the only language changes within those two contracts.
Okay, because they weren't attached to board books, so I wasn't exactly sure what the final spot was on that. So, okay. Yeah, I'll just add that it was a respectful, positive dialogue with the teachers last Thursday. Really appreciate their cooperation and collaboration in coming up with something that is fair. They've been through a lot. We all have been through a lot. Parents, everyone, been through a lot with this distance learning. So I'm very appreciative of everything all the teachers are doing, and I'm glad to hopefully move forward with this on an approval on Monday. Any other questions, or John or Gary?
I'll just say thanks to the administration and Pam and Jeff, and who else is on it?
Travis.
Travis, yes, thank you. For all the time I'm sure you spent negotiating, and the teachers too for their time. Looks like a good deal.
John, any questions?
No, I'm good. I just read through part of it. When will we see like the cook and the the cooks and the custodial one?
I'll put that out there shortly. There were, like I said, there weren't any language changes. I believe there's a new salary schedule that's developed, and then that'll also be attached to it.
And that was over 2 years as well, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I had it written down right.
3.5 and 3.5 for 1920 and 3.5 for 2021. Any other questions, comments, concerns? So our upcoming meeting is Monday, May 18th. Hopefully we'll continue to hear that everything is a go for graduation. Nothing's changed by Monday. I think it's nice that our graduation is falling so quickly after the opening, because who knows if you're open for 2 weeks, what's going to happen after, all those people are going to have to put more restrictions in place June 1st. So I think we're kind of lucky in that regard that we're having our, 4 or 5 days after the reopening of parts of reality. So, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Gary? John, do you want to second it? I don't want to I'll second. Gary Michael made the motion and Pam Baker seconded to adjourn the study session. We have to do technically a roll call vote, and I didn't do that when we approved the agenda, and my apologies. John?
I approve.
Gary?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So 3 yes, no no's. By roll call vote, we have approved to adjourn the meeting. Time now is 6:45. So thanks again for all your hard work. We appreciate it. And we appreciate the teachers that are participating, and thank you, Margot, for all your hard work to make the senior graduation a memorable event. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.